discipline, non-reactive expression of negative emotions, resurfacing of the deep mind, inner silence. The 4 phases of the pyramid of reconquest, tools that act in parallel, supporting and nurturing one another towards the top, towards the acme. The journey may not be short. It may take years to build a solid, steady structure. In our life, there are a lot of thought-emotional structures completely managed by the opponent for its purposes, and some of them are so rooted within us, so closely linked to our identifications, that it can take years of work before being inactivated. These structures are nothing more than our beliefs, our convictions, those dogma on which we found our lives, those mental inherited laws on which we conform our actions, those activities that we believe to be an inalienable part of our being. All things that death will sweep away like dry leaves. In our years of work, it is certain that we will fall, over and over again, into various emotional addictions that we carry inside. It's rare to be able to immediately stop the emotional flood that for so many years leads us to become an emotion, to satisfy a hypothetical, irrepressible need. But our pyramid of reconquest that we're building is acting, and it is certain too, in spite of our lost battles. By continuing to practice, to build, to replace, one day the attack of the opponent will be simply rejected in the beginning, up to disappear. We will recognize with irony and tranquility the unreal structure to which we gave our consent to keep itself, and we will let it go as quick as a click of the fingers. What are we talking about? Of all those thoughts, emotional structures in our lives that have bred emotional attachment to their satisfaction. Smoke, alcohol, sex, food, work, shopping, even the shopping. Should we deny it? Not on your life. Forced deprivation is harmful and pointless. We have to transcend them. We have to disconnect them from the control of the opponent through detachment and light them under the fire of consciousness. What remains? Ourselves. The freedom and joy of being, rather than the slavery of depending, disguised as personal freedom. In building the life in which we really belong, it's good to treasure some tips related to the experience of those that before us began and continued the same process. Here are a few. It's very important not to allow the rise and growth of anger following a non-reactive expression of negative emotions. Anger is a negative emotion itself, highly damaging to the balance of energy in a field of human consciousness, and has no sensible reason to exist. It is merely a reaction of the opponent to the resistance or failed identification of the field of human consciousness with the disempowering spiral it triggered. Develop and nurture as much as possible within ourselves the perception of the subtle balance between restrain oneself and repress oneself. Restrain oneself means accepting the negative emotion, relentlessly observing it in ourselves, understanding if it should be expressed or let go, and then be ready to a possible expression at the right time and never in a violent or agitated way. Repress oneself means not to accept the emotion, thus drawing it with rage within us, feeding the cauldron of the opponent. In our process of reconquest, not expressing negative emotions through repression or letting repression generate and nourish anger is futile, unnecessary, and harmful. But what if the rage or negative emotion in us has had time to grow and manifest without us being able to stop it? When the opponent triggers a disempowering spiral, a field of human consciousness in inner silence is able to recognize instantly within itself the appearance of a thought image that is not the result of its conscious intention. Therefore, can stop the process as it arises simply by refusing to feed it, that is, consciously replacing it with a thought image tied to experiences that we want to live. But if within us the interrelated emotion has already been triggered, it means that the disempowering spiral was charged with energy. At that point, resistance is much more difficult and can easily lead to anger. That is an effect that, as we have seen, does nothing but further amplify the whole pattern. So what to do? A good practice is to wrap in the inner silence the action we take as a result of emotional addiction. That is, become extremely aware and therefore observe without judging and with our full attention what we are doing, or rather, what we are somehow compelled to do. Experience the action in total consciousness. Look at the effects on our body, our emotions that follow, the effects on the environment around us. We will discover many things. We will discover, for example, that we cannot interrupt what we are doing, even if we perceive the damage we are causing. Yet, for some mechanical ideas managed by the opponent, a single action amplified by consciousness like this is sufficient to expose and transcend them instantly and permanently. In our observation, wrapped in the inner silence, the deep mind will make emerge and show to us, with clarity and sweetness that are its peculiar characteristics, a very simple question that could shake ourselves up to foundations. This sudden flash of understanding is sometimes enough to change the course of a whole lifetime. Now, it's up to you. It's up to you to decide to accept the challenge or not. It's up to you to decide whether to live a whole life at the mercy of the opponent and its addictions, or live the intense, proud, strong, free, happy life of a field of consciousness and energy that is broken free. My last gift to you here is a story. Listen and return into it whenever you will feel that your faith wavers. I awoke to the sound of the clock ticking loudly on the blue drawer. I was 6. And it was my birthday. I let my pyjamas fall to the ground and I threw them under the bed, then ran down the stairs wearing only my Lone Ranger underpants. It was my birthday. Within a few hours, my friends would be arriving with gifts, and there would be cake, ice cream, and lots of fun. After all the party decorations were detached and everyone had gone, I played listlessly with my new toys. I was bored, tired, and my stomach hurt. I closed my eyes and I fell asleep. I saw each day pass like the next. School for a week, then weekend, school, weekend, summer, autumn, winter, and spring. The years passed, and before long, I was one of the best gymnasts in Los Angeles high schools. In the gym, life was exciting. Outside of it, a general disappointment. One day, Coach Harold Frey called me from Berkeley University, California, offered me a scholarship to the university. I could not wait to go to the coast for a new life. I argued with my girlfriend for this, and in the end we broke up. I felt bad, but I consoled myself with my university projects. Soon I was sure life was really going to begin. The college years flew, reaching gymnastic wins. I married my new girlfriend, Susie. I was so busy with training that I didn't have much time and energy for my new wife. In the end, I participated in the Olympics, but my performances were not equal to my expectations. I returned home and slipped into relative anonymity. My daughter was born, and I started feeling pressure and responsibility that grew. I found a job, life insurance salesman, but it took up most of my days and nights. I had no time for my family. Within a year, Susie and I were separated. In the end, she obtained a divorce. a fresh start, I reflected sadly. One day, I looked in the mirror and realized that 40 years had passed since my Olympics. Where had my life gone? With the help of the psychiatrist, I had overcome my drinking problem, and I'd had money, houses, and women. But I had no one now. I was lonely. I lay in bed, it was night, and wondered where my daughter was. It had passed years since I'd seen her. I wondered about Susie and my friends of my good old days. Now, I spend my days sitting in my favorite rocking chair, sipping wine, watching TV, and thinking about the old days. I watched children play in front of my house. I had been a good life, I supposed. I'd gotten everything I'd gone after. So why wasn't I happy? I sat alone. I had been alone my whole life, it seemed. I lay back on my rocking chair and breathed, and then I cried soundlessly and bitterly. God damn it! Why did my marriage have to fail? How could I have done things differently? How could I really have lived? Suddenly, I felt a terrible, nagging fear, the worst of my life. Was it possible that I had missed something very important, something transcendental, something that would have made a real difference? No, impossible, I assured myself. I cited all my achievements aloud, but the fear persisted. I stood up slowly, looked down at the town from the porch of my hilltop house, and wondered, where had life gone? What was it for? My knuckles grew white as I clutched the railing, trembling. Then my body turned to ice and my heart to stone. I fell back into the chair, my head dropped forward. There were lights I'd never seen before and sounds I'd never heard. Visions floated by. In the end, all sight and sound became a point of light, then vanished. I had found the only peace I'd ever known. There are innumerable possible futures. Accept the challenge, traveler. Dismantle the opponent out of your life. Dismantle the opponent out of your life. I wish you all the possible best, traveler.